Hey guys, my name's Gavin and welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make guitar loops in the style of Nick Mira. And yeah, follow me on Instagram if you haven't already at gavinhadley_. Email me loops at gavinhadleybeats@gmail.com. Subscribe if you haven't already, and let's try to get this video to like 15 likes. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting video. I have a lot of stuff to talk about and it's going to be cool. So yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so here is like the project file for the loop, and we're gonna hop into this first guitar. And also keep in mind, this is actually something really cool that you can do if you have friends that play the guitar, or you know people that play the guitar that are willing to do this for you. Ask them to, like, you have a MIDI right here for the guitar that you made, ask them to try their best to play it out on a real guitar. And yeah, so that's what I did for this loop. So this is the MIDI for the guitar that I laid out, and I made it so it was able to be played on an actual guitar. So the highest note that you can play on an actual guitar is a B6, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I didn't want to have anything go above that. I tried to keep everything in different zones. So like here I have the bass line right here that goes down, as you can see, and then I have like this melody right here, this area, and then I have these top melodies right here. So these are all played in like 3 separate recordings. So you have your bass line, your main melody right here, and then you have your top line melodies. Each one is played in a different recording with the guitar, because otherwise it's like impossible to move your fingers around that fast to get to the different notes. But yeah, so let's play this and I'll show you or I'll explain my thinking process when I was making this. Alright, so I was in C sharp minor for this beat, and let me find where I have the guitar now. Alright, so here's the guitar, and for my bass line, it was originally something entirely different, but after I had all of these bass notes out and on the MIDI keyboard, they were all like super on the grid, like right here, and like right here and here. So I wanted to start by giving it a better bounce by putting the notes slightly off the grid. And that's definitely something that you can do to help improve your melodies and give them a lot more movement. So yeah, so I had C sharp, and then I had it just go up to D, and then down to B, and then down to G sharp. And like here, I decided to change the bass notes because I felt like I had like a more upwards movement going. But then I wanted to keep this original progression that I had, so I just brought it down. And then I have this, it kind of leads into the lowest note that I have in the sequence. And now originally I just had this looping for the entire 9 bars, but then I decided that I wanted to try to use other notes in the scale to like build the melody back up, just like going straight up the scale, which is something that I do in a lot of my top melodies, but not so much in my bass lines. But since we're like playing an actual guitar, that's something that's a lot more like realistic to do with the guitar as opposed to like a piano or something. So yeah, so I go up to A, and then B, and then C, which is actually the leading tone in this scale. And if you don't know what a leading tone is, it's basically not in the scale technically, but it gives it kind of like a darker, more suspenseful feel. And it's always the note, and at least in the minor natural scale, it's the note below the root note of the scale. So in our case, our root note is C sharp, so C is going to be our leading tone. And then we just drop back down to G, because I felt like to transition from the beginning of, or from the end of this melody back up to the beginning, I needed to drop it back down and then use the leading tone again right here, and then that leading tone leads straight back into our root note. So yeah, that's the bass line. And as for the melody, I say this in all my videos, there's not really any music theory, it's just me going up and down the scale trying to pick out notes that I think sound right to me. So yeah, I'm gonna play a little bit of it here. I almost kind of want to mimic like vocals as someone was singing. They would do like creative stuff like this, so you can see like. But I also want to use repetition when I'm doing this. So as you can see, these notes right here are the same, and I use this note a lot throughout the entire melody. And yeah, so that's that. I had like a thought in my mind of having the melody go down right here, because I'm kind of trying to like mimic a thought that I have in my head. And then we cannot worry about, or we don't have to worry about these for now. I'll talk about those in a second. So yeah, now I'm just going up, right here, going up, and then in my mind, for the idea that I was trying to replicate, I think I wanted to go down. And this took a while. Don't think this took 2 seconds. This is, ooh, I kicked the camera. This is a long time of me really repeating this stuff and going back in my head, which is something I've been doing in a lot of my beats, just taking my time and not worrying about quantity. I've really been focusing more on quantity lately, trying to make the best samples that I can. And then here, this is basically just the same thing right here, except I added this note to give it more of a full kind of dramatic feeling, and also like to just differ it up from this first part. And now we can talk about our top melodies. So here it's just really just going up the scale. And then all of these actually started out as this original top melody. So I had one here and here, but then I felt like I needed to change it up, keeping like the same flow of notes. As you can see, all the notes are playing at the same spot for the most part, just shifted over. So here I decided I wanted to bring this up a little bit, from here to here, and then wanted to go up. And I'm just trying to like think of creative ways to do this, like just utilizing higher notes in the scale. And then this note I thought did a really good job at wrapping everything up and leading into, it does a good job leading into the beginning of this again. And I feel like every time I explain my melodies in all my videos, I kind of say the same thing, but it's true. It's almost like my formula of making melodies. I really try to do my best at finishing off the melody in a powerful way, because that, I feel like that's one of the most important parts when you make it, to get it like stuck in the listener's head. If everything just flows perfectly, it's so much easier to I feel like you understand it and to like connect with it. So yeah, that's basically the guitar. I don't really have to talk about any of the effects I put on it, because I ended up getting a live guitar from my friend Miles. Shout out Miles. But yeah, so here is actually that's not it. Here is the live guitar that he ended up playing, and I'll talk about the effects that I put on it. But also, when you are getting live guitars, if they're not played perfectly in time, like it's never going to be perfectly in time, but if you want to go in and change where some of the notes are hitting so they're more on time and they fit better, you can do that. Make sure that you can leave spaces like this, but when you hear like an awkward kind of silence area, what you're gonna want to do is press this. You probably can't see this. Make unique as a sample. Drag it out or stretch it so it aligns with the note, so they connect. I'll show you where I did it. I did it right. I did it right here. As you can see, this was originally, there was like a little space here, and it made it sound kind of awkward. There was like nothing playing, so I made it unique, and then I stretched it out slightly so it connected with this one. But then it's out of time, or it's out of key. So you have to go to the mode here and press stretch instead. And yes, this is what the guitar sounds like. The real guitar that he played. Right, so that's what he played, and I'll show you the effects that I put on it. So I just put Microshift. It's the SoundToys plugin. If you don't have it, I recommend getting it. I put the preset to double, and then I turned down the mix a little bit to get it to sound how I wanted it to. That's all I did for this bass line. And then for this, I put reverb on it, a little bit of Alter Boy, which is something that I do. I talked about it in my last video. I put the pitch all the way up so it's like an octave higher layered on top, and then I just blend it down using the mix knob to like mix in the original with the higher pitch, so I like it more. That's the way I like it more. But yeah, so that's that, and then I just added a little bit of RC20, just put a little bit of noise on it, a little bit of space, and then magnetic to give it like more of a vintage, washed out kind of feel. So that's that, and then now for the top lines. They're right here, I just did that same thing with the little altar boy, except I put it down an octave this time and blended it in, because I wanted to have a little bit more like distorted kind of low end in the sample, but it's really nothing too noticeable, to be honest. I just think it gives it a cool feel when I do that. So yeah, that's it for the guitars. Now moving on to the flute, which is the part that in my opinion gives it the most life. It's just me going up and down the scale here, as you can see. There's two notes in the scale that are right back to back to each other on the keyboard, and I like to use one, go down, and then go up to that first one. I do that in a lot of my melodies. And now, as you can see, I go down and do that, which gives this first melody a sense of closure. And then this high note really throws the listener off, but not in a bad way. It's really refreshing to the ear, I feel like. Yeah, this is what the first part sounds like. And I sustained this because I really wanted this to stand out, as it's in this really high pitch, and I just thought that it sounded really cool. So that's why I stretched it out and let it go for a while without having any other notes get in the way. So yeah. And then this is a passing note, and then here's this note. I just thought it sounded good, as what I say for all my melodies, my top melodies at least. And then I have this, kind of fools the listener. It goes down, and then you're kind of expecting it to just transition back up to this note, but I don't do that. I actually made this whole second half unique as well. Alright, so originally when I did this, I had this part right here duplicated right here, and I have the same note still, but I thought that this note sounded better, and then I had just flip-flop these notes. I inversed them. And then I added this on top, which is kind of rare in a flute melody, but I did it to give this really, it just gives a really full feeling and really emphasizes this part of the melody, since there's two flutes on top of each other, which is kind of rare in beats. But yeah, what the second half sounds like, and then it's just going down the scale and using a note that transitions well back up to the first one. I used the grace note right here to make the flute sound a little bit more realistic, and then I did Alt-R on my keyboard to randomize it to make all of the flute notes coming in at a different volume. I said that weird, but it doesn't matter. Let's see, so that's done, and I'll show you the effects that I put on the flute, and I apologize for how crammed and disorganized this was. It was just me experimenting a lot of different things, but yeah, here's the flute. I put micro shift on it, changed down the mix. I have it on the double preset again. That's probably my favorite one. I did the little altar boy, and then I just added a little bit of reverb to it. So yeah, nothing too crazy. And then lastly, I have this expand. It's the spooky preset. It's one of the pads in there. And if you don't have expand, I really suggest that you get it. It's kind of cheap. It's not too expensive, and it's just cool. I use it in a lot of my beats. And yeah, I used this, or this is what I did with it. I have G sharp, B, so I'm just trying to keep it simple here, kind of contrasting the complex melodies that I have going so far, using it as kind of a pad, and this is what it sounds like. And then I went up here like I did with this the flute. I thought it synergized well with the flute and gave it a more powerful feeling if I put a note right here. And these are also the same notes that are used in the flute around this time, I'm pretty sure, and the same notes that are used in the guitar, so it really does a good job at unifying that section of the beat together and giving it an overall sense of direction. And then I just go down the scale here, and I found this E again, which I thought really did a good job transitioning well back up to the G. So yeah. And I guess now I'll show you the effects that I put on that, if I can find it. It's right here. And I experimented a bunch with arcade, but I feel like sometimes arcade can be really good. And I said how good it was in my last video. I really think it's a good plugin, but sometimes it's just not necessary. Just keep stuff simple. Make sure you leave room for the artist. And yeah, so all I did was put micro shift on that again. As you can see, I really like micro shift, the double preset, and then filter freak. And I gave it kind of this underwater arpeggiating feel. I guess I'll play it by itself here. So what it sounds like without it. And then with it, I brought back the mix knob because I thought that it was a little bit too much when everything was going. at full intensity, so I brought it down. And yeah, that's basically it. I rendered everything out into a WAV file, and I just structured it out right here so one sound is playing at a time, and then all at the beginning, so you can like chop up the parts to arrange it how you'd like. Yeah, that's pretty much the sample. I'll mute all this. I rendered it out to a file right here. I'll mute these as well, and this is what it sounds like. So yeah, that's it. That's how I made this Nick Mira guitar style melody. Feel free to drop a like on the video if you haven't already. Subscribe. I want to get to 800 sometime soon. That probably sounds crazy, but I want it. But so yeah.